you can see, first election was held in 1951-52. What was our literacy rate? 16%. You cannot compare our situations with the Western countries, where the literacy rate is now 100%. At the time of 50s, they were, I think, the more than 50 or 60%. Our literacy rate was 16. And in 1988, we, in Indian Parliament, do a very good judgment that the age of the voter, we have reduced 21 to 18. Yes. It is also part of election reform. More youngers participating in the election. In 1982, first time in southern part of India, we used electronic voting machine. In by-election, I think in the Kerala, Parur by-election, first time we used electronic voting machine 1982, but in his time, I think, in his time, we could succeed in the whole part of the country. We use the electronic voting machine. We must compliment Mr. Krishna Murthy. 1982 started 1982 and completed in 2004. It takes time, sir. It takes time. And I can take one example of the TN session. Before TN session, election commissioner must be having the post, but nobody was knowing the voter ID card. Nobody was knowing the voter ID card. Now everybody is knowing the voter ID card, and some people say it's a session card. Some people say it is a session card. It's different from person to person. Some people say, when I was a collector of a district, I was taking an interview. What is your address? Have you any proof? He told me that I don't have any proof, but I have a session card. What is the session card? TN session made effort and implemented the model code of conduct. It is also part of the election reform. It's not model code of conduct. Now, what is the situation after going TN session? It differs, sir. It differs from person to person. But I must say here, our Prime Minister is very much interested in election reform. Whatever inform they come, he is always talking about election reform. But in upper house, we don't have a majority. And you are rightly pointed out, in some with simple majority, we need a majority in Rajya Sabha. But in the constitutional amendment, we need 2/3 majority in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha both. That is the issue. It means we need political consensus first, then definitely by end of 2019, you must see so many election reform in country also. Thank you.
Of course, a lot of things take time, and it is wrong to say that this country has not seen electoral reforms at all. During the conduct of the first election, the first election commissioner of this country had a daunting task to enroll people in the electoral list. It was a very difficult task, especially enrolling women. When women were asked for their names to get enrolled in the list, women were not ready to give their names. Yeah. They were only saying, I want to be registered as daughter of X, wife of Y. That was how women were registered in the first election. From that, we have come a very long way, but we have a very, very long way to go ahead. The challenges are increasing. Can we, be satisfied with the pace of electoral reforms? As Mr. T.S. Krishnamurthy mentioned, these reforms, the proposal for these reforms are on paper right from 2004, that too from the Chief Election Commissioner of this country. But the pace of it is too low.
Sir, I am agree, sir. We are not satisfied. If the pace of election reform definitely will, you can say, strengthen, then the good people in parliament will represent good people by the parliament, and the Prime Point Foundation will be happy, more happy.
It has now become very fashionable for parties. It has always become, it is always fashionable for parties to blame the election commission, blame the CEO, to blame the CEC.
No, sir, we are not blaming.
No,
sir.
I'm not telling you. I'm taking it to the next panelist. All parties have done that, including yours. In 2014, you did, in the run-up to the Lok Sabha elections. All parties have done, no party has been an exception to this. Chief Election Commissioner, the CEO, they've all been blamed, they've all been called biased, they have been called names. But as the former Prime Minister of this country, Shri Vajpayee, pointed out, drawbacks in our democracy are not because of the Election Commission or the Chief Election Commissioners. Rather, they have been created by the system as the whole. What we are discussing is the change and the reform in the system. I would like to ask Mr. T.K. Rangarajan, especially after seeing the conduct of the recently held elections, or what's happening in Karnataka and what happened in the other states. Do you believe in some way, though in size we are a very large democracy and we are proud of it, we are not yet a mature democracy? Do you believe so?
Thank you very much. I think we discuss the electoral reform and other things every 5 years. If tomorrow, if this 2014-15 election is not there, this 16, we will discuss only in the next election. The 5 years gap, we will give a holiday. That's how we protect our democracy. See, the real problem is, parliamentary democracy is one of the highest democracy available in the world. This must be protected. We borrowed it from Westminster, if I am correct. But when we borrow, our country is a capitalist and feudal-backed country. We don't have the democratic conscience fully available in this country when our country got freedom. I would like to draw the attention of the enlightened audience. Why educated people are not coming for voting? Why Mylapore registered only 55% vote? Second point is, in a country, Ambedkar has correctly said, we have given one man, one vote. We have not given one man, one value. Value means education. For the past 60 years, whether it is Pandit Nehru or Vajpayee or Devagowda or our present government, the latest UNESCO says India is currently the largest population of illiterate adults in the world with 287 million. Are we not responsible? Is Election Commission is responsible? You have all Election Commission reform. Finally, when you come for voting, unless you create a democratic mind among the common man, among the voters, whether he is illiterate or illiterate, thus we have failed. That we have failed. We did not include that in the curriculum of schools. We did not include in the day-to-day practice. If I am attacked in my house, the next door man will not come to my help, he shuts his door. The democratic conscience is very low. It is getting low everywhere. And I would like to draw the attention, after neoliberal regime, the crony capital also plays a very big role in the election. That's what happened in Karnataka just now. That's what happening in Tamil Nadu election also. Capturing power is more important by hook or crook. That can be stopped only by the democratic-minded voters. Unless you do the job at least once in a week in your TV, in our print media. They don't do that. After 5 years, again the same thing will be there. I may not be there, Mr. Krishnamurthy not may be there, he may not be there, another panelist will come. So this is not going to help. Are we not really doing service to the nation? Are we really doing service to the Indian democracy? So Indian democracy has to be protected. And there is an attempt. I think Mr. Krishnamurthy also endorsed it. Twice they want president for. It was tried at the time in the Vajpayee, even before Indira Gandhi. They wanted to have their own electoral reform. See, that is not going to suit us because when Mr. Krishnamurthy here, I wanted to tell whether that president form of government will help the country. No.
In theory, in practice, is that not a reality? We only vote the chief ministers. We vote parties based only on the leaderships.
That's what we have created. That's what we have created. It has become a private limited company. I can tell you it is a private.
Can we say we created it?
It is a charishma. It is not happening in the United States. One Obama goes, it is finished. It's not happening in a developed country. It is happening in an underdeveloped country. That's also linked with your democratic consciousness.
There is a party like the CPM or a CPI which doesn't project a prime ministerial nominee. There is a party like the Bharatiya Janata Party. There is a party like ADMK or DMK which projects a certain face. But it is the people's choice. Can we say we created it? It comes from the people's choice, doesn't it?
No, that's agree. I agree, totally agree. People are very affectionate, very loyal to the leader. Even if they are arrested under corruption charge, they are very loyal. I don't know how to explain that. How to explain that? And we have to come out of all these things. Because somebody is loyal with me, not that I am 100% correct. There is something wrong in me or something wrong in my supporters. That comes of the, again, consciousness of the people. If I am wrong, they must reject me. They rejected Indira Gandhi. Indian people are not ordinary people. I respect Indian people. They can reject Indira Gandhi, again they can elect Indira Gandhi. They can topple Vajpayee, they can elect Modi. So many things are happening in India. But it should be put in a correct channel that requires some more education. That education is not available. I don't know Mr. Krishnamurthy's recommendation on electoral reform. I have not gone through that. Whether it should be added in the curriculum of the schools. If you go to any developed country, even kindergarten students, childs are told you should not cross the road. When red light is there, you must cross the road. Here, when red light is there, we will cross the road.
But in India, if we look at the track records, education and electoral conscience is inversely proportional. As you rightly pointed out, in Mylapore, the voting percentage is so low. In Dharmapuri and the districts surrounding it, where the literacy rate is low, it's high. In Kanyakumari, which enjoys a very high literacy rate, the voting percentage is very low. In India, unfortunately, it's inversely proportional, the electoral conscience and education.
See, that you see, because of the affectionate with the leader and the propaganda they are making by the parties and they bring the voters. You know what happened into your Aravakurshi? Some parties go to house. They ask the people, where is your son? He is working in the Tata consultancies in Chennai. They take him by car. He goes by car. My point is, you should not take that candidate money to travel in a car. What he says, I can stay with my parents for 2 days. See, Bihari goes to Bihar for election. Bengali from Chennai, he goes to Bengal for election. The ordinary people, they do it. Even I know an auto rickshaw driver goes to Ariyalur for voting, spends his personal money, 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees. Because they value their vote, because they value their affection to their party is more. That affection is correct, that leadership worship is correct, whether it has got any meaning, that's a different thing. But this illiterate or other rural area people, they work a lot for their leadership.
I would like to ask Mr. T.S. Krishnamurthy, before I ask a few other questions. Alexander Fraser Tytler in the 16th century did say this. Are we facing this problem? A democracy cannot exist as a permanent form of government. It can only exist until the voters discover that they can vote themselves largesse from the public treasury. From that moment on, the majority always votes for the candidates promising the most benefits from the public treasury, with the result that a democracy always collapses over loose fiscal policy, always followed by a dictatorship. Looking at the recent developments, what this person had said in the 16th century, have we attained this level?
Well, two or three things I thought I should clarify. I think Mr. Rangarajan was mentioning about presidential form of government as one of the possible reforms. I had never held a view that one system or the other is better than that. In fact,
I did not say, I
No.
did not refer your name.
I know,
But I say it was happened twice in this country.
I agree.
But
There are-
rejected by the then President of India.
No, even today there are few people who think that presidential system may be a better system.
Yeah.
In my book, of course, I've written about this. Another subject that has often been debated in the desirability of moving from the existing parliamentary democracy to presidential democracy. New York Times diplomatic correspondent Neil Louis observed, the yearning to see American-style democracy duplicated throughout the world has been a persistent theme in American policy. This sentiment is often voiced to justify American intervention in countries like Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. The economic poverty of emerging democracies sometimes tempts them to adopt the political system of the intervening country. We should realize that we live in a world that is delicately poised between past fears and future hopes. One cannot argue that the parliamentary system is better than the presidential system, per se, or vice versa. Ultimately, any system is as good or as bad as the people who operate it. So, my personal view, I'm not saying that you had quoted me wrongly. All that I'm saying is, do not seek for the wholesale change of the system just because the present system is defective. Because ultimately, the people who are going to operate, the political parties, the voters, the politicians, the members of parliament are the same. So unless they change, that attitude changes, the quality of the system, the parliamentary system or presidential system does not make much of a difference. The second point that you mentioned about the suicidal tendency of democracy. In fact, I've written about that also in my book. If you analyze the pages of history, you will find democracy has got a suicidal tendency. You get a good leader, then it corrupts itself, and then again, there's a tendency to have a dictatorship, and then again, democracy comes back. This is the history, the world history, if you look at it. Unless and until you constantly improve, refine the quality of democracy in each country, depending upon the culture of that country. So it is necessary to realize that we are in a danger of losing our democracy if the present system continues the way it is now. The political parties, that's why, should realize the dangers ahead, the signals that are available. If you really want to improve the quality of democracy, please address yourself to the improvement of the system. In fact, Professor John Kay in UK has written a book, Is Democracy Dead? In fact, he comes to the conclusion that in many countries it is dying. So we have to look for, if this is dying, should we look for another alternative or should we look for an improved democracy? So this kind of a self-analysis in each country should take place. And we do have at every point of time that if the political parties and the political members of parliament do not realize the urgency to reform periodically, because election reform is not a one-time solution.
I have
It
a
has to be
doubt, sir. You
periodically
say
reformed.
the success of any system depends on the people who are a part of it, people who operate it. Any amount of reform, it's the same set of people who would operate it, who would be a part of it. How does it serve? Because we have been seeing consistent reforms, the election commission undergoing, the election system undergoing, but the new set of problems arise. So any amount of electoral reforms that we make, does it serve purpose unless the attitude, the overall attitude, the societal attitude changes?
No, you cannot wait for the whole attitude to change. You have to promote conditions which will change the attitude of the people. So it is necessary. You have to follow probably incrementalism in bringing about changes. So there are number of changes which can be done without much of a problem. I am sure all the political parties will agree individually. But when you bring it collectively, they don't take it up because most of them are quite happy. I will say most of them, I don't say all of them. Most of them are quite happy with the status quo because it benefits all irregularities to be practiced. So unless and until you periodically, I mean, I'm sure there are brilliant and wise men in each political party. If they can apply their mind and if they can advise their political leadership for changes, I have no doubt that the quality of democracy in this country can be improved.
To Mr. Arjun Ram Meghwal, political consensus on such matters is such a difficult task to get in this country. But on certain unpopular matters, for certain controversial matters, it comes easily. For example, the office of the CIC did rule that it is a quasi-judicial body. It ruled that all political parties are public institutions, or the national parties are the public institution. They come under the RTI. We saw a very boisterous parliament. All parties, CPM, CPI, BSP, BJP, Congress, they all came together in a very, very rare political consensus. No, we will not come under the CIC. We will not come under it. Then the political consensus was possible. But on the electoral reforms, which everybody say in public, no, it is the need of the hour, it is our policy, our leaders said this, we all want this, and this political consensus is not happening at all. So it is just the lack of will. There is a consensus in private among all political parties to maintain the status quo, isn't it so?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your observation regarding CEC. First of all, I want to associate with Mr. T.S. Krishnamurthy that the system must be changed. Unless we change the system and unless we improve the system, we will not get the proper result of the democracy. That is true, sir. My point regarding the CEC, you are very right. Again, I was in the same committee when CEC decision has come that all political parties should give the account to the CEC. All expenditure should be accounted. I was the same committee, in Law and Justice Committee, and the chairman was different, one not was ready. I think the Singhvi and some other chairman was. The point was that how it functioned. Some political parties in that particular meeting were ready to give the account of information to the Chief Information Commission. Some political parties. I can't quote the name here. But some were telling that how it will function. Suppose today DMK party, or you can say any AIDMK or any political party, because we have a 6 recognized national party and 44 state recognized party, and so many other parties which are not recognized, convene a meeting in some part of Igmore in nearby Chennai, and do some exercise of they provide food, some 100 people, and they pay charges for the chairs, and so many things, phone, like that. Who can provide this information to the Chief Election Commission, Chief Information Commission? That was the issue. Otherwise, we have totally told to the Chief Information Commission, you can point out how it functions. We are ready to provide the information, or we are ready to come under the Chief CIC. So many political parties are ready, but how it functions? That is the issue. People are getting donation from the anybody. They are, I think, online at present. Chief Information Commission are taking the information also. I was taking the part in the TV debate. So many informations are available in our party, Congress party, and I think in the CPIM also. But each and every activity of the political party, how it will function, that was the issue. Otherwise,
Your
it is,
concerns are justified, but
then
but
it is
Your
not the
concerns
issue.
are
If
justified.
you can give some suggestion, we are ready to accept the proposal of the Chief Information Commission.
your concerns are absolutely.
We are ready. Our party is ready. How it will function, if you could tell me some suggestion or get out the chart, how it will function, we are ready to accept.
Your concerns are justified, sir, but that was an order of a sort. It is a quasi-judicial organization. What if a government department says, no, we will not come under RTI, we have
No,
certain
that is not
concerns."
issue. There is a appeal officer, chief, some information officer. There are certain level of officers are appointed. But in political party, who is the person who will give the information? If they don't provide the information, where the appeal will lie?
But
That is the issue. That is the issue.
But my question is, in a matter like this, there are every political party has a
Even I am
common view on
agree.
this.
I agree that we all consensus on that. It is not functionable. At that particular point,
Why not on
we
other
agreed. We agreed. You can say, you can blame that why do you agreed and why do you not agreed on the election reform?
Yes.
That is your point. But in the women legislative bill, some parties are agreed, some are not agreed. We are in democracy, sir. We have 6 national recognized party, 44 state recognized party, and more than I think 600, 500 different parties in the different state. So we have to make political consensus. Otherwise, it will not pass by the Lok Sabha or not by, unless it is passed by Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, both. The bill, the election reform bill cannot be take place as an act. That is the issue.
Mr. T.S. Krishnamurthy has something to add.
As far as disclosure of information by political parties, if the problem is that you do not have an operating system, kindly appoint 3 or 4 people in whom you have faith and ask them to come out with a scheme. It is possible. Only the election strategy need not be disclosed. All other matters, particularly financial transactions and the matters relating to internal democracy of the party, they can be disclosed, and I see no reason why political parties should not come forward on their own. We will disclose this information on our website. They can certainly give. You don't have to wait for a law or for a scheme to come out. Why don't the political parties say, this is our internal democracy, this is what we do, we have periodical elections, this is the procedure we have followed, and also similarly indicate, as far as donations are concerned, so whatever information you get is not because the political parties have given it on their own. It is because there is a law which says that any donation before over 20,000 rupees should be disclosed to the Election Commission. But the problem comes not in relating to 20,000 rupees. The problem comes relating to an amount below 20,000 rupees. It's unfortunate that lakhs and lakhs of rupees are obtained in cash, and they're all quoted as below 20,000 rupees. How do you tackle them? The only way you tackle, at least in my opinion, is ban all donations to political parties. In Canada, for example, the political parties can have donations only from their members and their families. And so long as you get donations from the public, so long as you get donations from the corporates, then you are a public body, you must disclose everything to the people. Or ban all donations, and any donation for conducting elections should be given to a national election fund, and you can give 100% tax exemption for such donations, and the government can, the Election Commission, in consultation with all the political parties, can give this money to the contending candidates so that even a poorest person can come and contest the elections. Today, nobody can contest elections unless he has minimum of, at least, it's my guess, minimum of 10 to 25 lakhs for an election. So in this
You're being
state
so
of
economic.
maybe
10 to
more.
25 lakhs.
I'm not quite used to trending elections. But what I want to say is, that if you can create a national election fund, ban all donations to political parties, and then the National Election Fund will draw a guideline in consultation with all recognized political parties and distribute this money to the contesting candidates and ensure that no political party, no individual spends money other than. I have been suggesting this for the past 5 years, sir. Thank you.
You're the chief whip of the ruling party, Mr. Coming to Mr. Rangaraj. You're the chief whip of the party.
It's a
Would
very
you
good
take this
suggestion.
forward in your party in the parliament? Or do you take it to the Prime Minister? You
Sir,
find it
sir,
so
sir.
good? It's a
We-
part of his recommendation
We
in
are-
2004.
Sir, we are advocating this state funding expenditure. We are advocating. Again, there is a problem, how it will function. But we are in favor of that because we are in the seminar, there is input, then some processing will take place, there will be some output, and some feedback will come place. Again, it will become an input. That is the long process. But we are in favor of state funding. Thank you.
So I would like to add, it is not merely saying that we are in agreement. I would like the government can bring a white paper on this, saying that these are our proposals, or the political parties are willing to agree. If they agree, well,
We will try, sir. We will try it.
To Mr. Rangarajan, you have been so much concerned about the large-scale playing of money power, and you've been very vocal about this. Mr. T.S. Krishnamurthy's recommendation covers this creation of a national election fund and promote the state funding. There are people who say there are certain impracticalities about it. Or what is your say on this?
No, if you go through the parliament proceedings, in Rajya Sabha, a leader of CPIM, Yechuri, has spoken that even corporate people, those who wanted to give money, they can give it to the election commission. Luckily, leader of the opposition at that time, now leader of the ruling party in Rajya Sabha, Arun Jaitley has agreed, is endorsed. I agree with Yechuri. I am prepared that election fund should be created. No corporate should give to the individual or any political
Everybody
party.
agrees in principle.
No, my point is we don't take any money from any corporate people. When Tata sends some check, we return it. I think Krishnamurthy will endorse my point. And I am prepared to, I am showing my accounts to the income tax authority. For example, as an MP, I am giving every year my account, my income and expenditure to my party. I submit an income tax authority my accounts. Parliament also, they take my account. So 3 places I give my account. Now Parliament returned to me, don't send your account because you have no assets. Neither I will have asset nor I am going to get any assets. When I die, I die. I don't leave any will because I have nothing to give. See, there are hundreds of people in my party, they don't write will. So I am prepared. The point is RTI, if they wanted to see my minutes, meeting around what is happening in my meeting, that we are not prepared to give.
You are at a very rare consensus with BJP, Congress, BSP.
No,
What a rare
why?
consensus.
My point is, we discuss so many things in a camera meeting. Suppose X is being taken action. Tomorrow you will call to your TV, X is taken action, why you have opposed it? Why you have opposed it? You create another.
No, the crux of it is nobody is going to ask for your operational policy details. It is only whatever is on record in your party. Make that public. Your public institutions, you
should I?
qualify to be public
Can
institutions.
you ask the ministry to publish the minutes of what is happening in the
Sensitive
cabinet?
informations cannot, but what can be made public can be made public.
Cannot be made public. My party is a revolutionary party. I will tell you very frankly. Tomorrow I decide when some emergency comes, party may ask me to go underground. That may be on record. Why do I show my record?
Sir, if I can add on to it, I don't think the public want to know the details of our operational activities. What we want to know by way of information is, your internal democracy.
Public might not want to know. What if the BJP, what if the Congress, some other party would like to sabotage his party's activities, would
and
like to.
also, I would say, I mean, as part of the reform is, no payment should be accepted in cash by political parties. Even if it is 10 rupees, it should be only by check. If you can bring such reforms, only then money power will reduce in the country.
So I will tell you, because of the audience, enlightened audience, 70% of my income comes from LIC, bank, party members, levy. 70%. From 1 rupee to 1,000 rupees, the party member gives levy. That is my income.
Make that public, it will give you more
You
mileage.
can take it that I am submitting to income tax. You go and see.
Also, sir,
From my taluk committee.
do the same, being a part of RTI, being a part of the CIC's order.
No, when it is available in income tax, why do you want to have RTA on that?
It causes you no difficulty, it's the same thing, right?
No.
This has been the approach of all political parties together on this matter.
You wanted to have you know a real thing. Why do you want to go around and ask that?
We are ending, we are coming to the close of the session, and a last opinion from the two esteemed guests. Mr. Megwal, your party, especially your senior leader Advani, has been advocating compulsory voting. Is that feasible in a country like India? Last opinion of yours.
Sir, I think in the last budget session, there was a private member bill of Shri Janardhan Singh Sigriwal from Bihar regarding this compulsory voting, and we have debated in Lok Sabha, and ultimately the private bill was withdrawn, and government gave the assurance because that compulsory voting idea is very good, but again it is not feasible in such country, because somebody will not cast the vote. What is the penalty? So in Dinesh Goswami committee, it was discussed in the length, and Dinesh Goswami also told that it should not be compulsory. The compulsory voting at IGI is a good, but I think at this juncture it is not practical. That is why the private member bill, Mr. Janardhan Singh Sigriwal, was rejected by the majority. Thank you.
Mr. Megwal has to leave. A short comment. It is legally possible because making voting compulsory, it is in implementation in countries like Australia, in not countries of large scale like India. In India, voting is neither a fundamental right nor a fundamental duty. When that is the case, can you make voting compulsory? To Mr. T.S. Krishnamurthy, your final comments.
As far as compulsory voting is concerned, it is a very desirable idea, but it is very difficult to implement at this stage. But in my opinion, compulsory voting can be introduced for local self-government elections. For example, the panchayat or the municipal elections. In some state, it has already been
in Gujarat, in
it has
a few
been
other
introduced.
states.
But for assembly as well as the parliament elections, probably we have to wait for a better time, because with the voting being around 60 to 70%, if the election commission has to chase the remaining 30% of the people, it will spend much of its time only on that. It will not be able to hold the elections. So our idea is at least start somewhere at the local level. Eventually, maybe after 10 years.
But is there a legal impediment, because in our country, voting is not a fundamental right nor a fundamental duty, it's just a constitutional right.
No, I agree. It has to be ultimately decided by the parliament, whether you want to bring compulsory voting or not. But that is the prerogative of the parliament. Whether it requires a constitutional amendment, I am not sure. It has to be looked into. So that is a different thing. What I am saying is about the feasibility. It may not be possible now, but certainly it's a desirable objective. But towards that objective, at least for local self-government elections, the state governments can consider issuing making a necessary amendments for compulsory voting.
Right. Electoral reforms is such a vast subject. We have much more to cover, but we have to end this session. I thank Mr. T.K. Rangarajan, Mr. T.S. Krishnamurthy, and Mr. Arjun Ram Meghwal for their participation. And there are reasons to worry. There are huge concerns. We have new challenges arising election after elections. But there are more reasons to hope. There were, as I told in my beginning address, there were naysayers when the first elections to this country were conducted. India will not survive as a country. Even if it does, it will not survive as a democracy beyond 1 or 2 elections. Those naysayers have gone nowhere. We don't even know their names now. But we have survived as a democracy. We have to manage all these challenges, overcome these challenges to remain as a vibrant, successful democracy, and these electoral reforms cannot be brushed aside. Thank you very much, sirs, for your participation. Thank you very much.